Good morning, class. We've got our listening ears on, our brains are in gear, and we've brought with us our can-do attitudes. We're ready to learn. We want to thank God for our healthy bodies and brains that He's given us to learn and explore about our wonderful world. So let's take time to do that now. Dear Jesus, we thank you for giving us the gift of a new day. We thank you for everything exciting about this day that we can learn and all the fun that we can have. Please help us as we sometimes get frustrated when we can't do something new, or we have to practice, or when someone else isn't sharing with us, or if someone else asks us to do something we don't want. We might get frustrated and angry even if someone has said something that hurts us. So help us to use kind words back and kind helping hands instead of angry words and angry hands, because it's not always easy to do that. So will you please be our helper and our teacher? Help us to know how gentle you are with us when you're teaching us, and help us to be gentle with others. We pray in Jesus' name, amen. Did you hear that word gentle? That's our word for the week in our Bible time, and hopefully throughout the whole day. What is that verse that helps us remember to use gentle words and gentle hands? That's right. It's found in Proverbs chapter 15, verse 1. So let's practice it together, because tomorrow you're going to send in those videos with your smiling faces telling me those words that you have memorized, your memory verses. A gentle answer turns away wrath, but a harsh word stirs up the anger. So we can choose. If we use gentle words and gentle, helpful actions, we can calm someone else down and we can calm ourselves down. It's like putting a Band-Aid over someone's grumpy, mean attitude. If they're feeling hurt inside, they might use grumpy, mean words and actions. And then if you talk to them in the same way or use rough hands with them, you can cause more anger. You can hurt them instead of helping them. But we have to calm ourselves down first before we can be gentle with others. So let's practice that with our families and with other people and our brothers and sisters. When we feel like using harsh words or harsh hands, let's take a deep breath and walk away if we need to, ask for help, and choose those kind, gentle words and helpful actions. So tomorrow, send those verses in to me. I'll be waiting for them. Well, it's a new day. Does anyone know what day it is? If you said Thursday, you're correct. So what day was it yesterday? If today is Thursday, it was Wednesday. And what day will tomorrow be? That's right. If today is Thursday, tomorrow will be Friday. Our new month is January. Our new year is 2022, and our new season is winter. Let's put our calendar together now. Thursday, January the 6th, because yesterday was the 5th. We have our AB pattern here of black, red, black, red, black. Our new year is 2022, and our new season is that wonderful winter season. And it's a winterland, wonderful winterland outside. Well, on Tuesday when we were together, we said we had been at school for 73 days. And we know that our caterpillar is getting longer and longer and going around all the walls in our circle area until we get to 100 and we celebrate that 100-day party. And hopefully we'll all be back here in our classroom when we have that 100-day party. Yeah, Tuesday was 73 days of school, so that's 7 groups of 10. On our hundreds chart, we have rows or groups of 10 blocks in each row. Well, here's a row of 10 blocks, and if we do that 7 times, we have 70. 7 groups of 10 blocks is 70. Let's do that together. 10, 20, 30, 40, 50, 60, and 70. We can also do that with our fingers because we have 10 fingers. This is one group of 10 fingers. If we do that 7 times, we have 70. 10, 20, 30, 40, 50, 60, and 70. But we said Tuesday was 73 days. So that's 7 groups of 10, 10 blocks 7 times plus 3 more. Let's do that. 10, 20, 30, 40, 50, 60, 70 plus 3 more. 73. Well, if yesterday was 73 days in kindergarten, what will today be? 74 days, of course. Tuesday was 73. So yesterday was 74 days. If yesterday was 74 days, then how many days in kindergarten is it today? 75. 73, 74, 75. So let's do that on our fingers. 10, 20, 30, 40, 50, 60, 70, plus 5 more. We don't have another group of 10, we only have 5 more. 70 plus 5 is 75. So today we are at school for 75 days. And Hermie, the caterpillar, is getting longer. So I'm going to put 74 for yesterday and 75 for today on the wall, and then I'll show you how long he's getting. I'm going to have to put my computer down very low so that you can see. There we go. Can you see Hermie the caterpillar? Can you see 70, 71, 72, 73, 74, and 75? We are almost around we're almost around the second wall in our circle area. We have one more wall to go, and then we will have gone around our whole circle time area. So we can look forward to that 100-day party when Hermie the caterpillar has 100 circles on his body and we have been at school for 100 days in kindergarten. Moving on, what's our letter of the week? Of course, it is P. And we know that P is made of a stick and a curve. You practiced that on your printing pages yesterday. And today you have your craft pages. And Mrs. Peddler thought she had them. Just 1 second, I'll be right back and I'll go get them. So, SKs, you have a Piggy P page, craft page, and on the back of it, it says you will need crayons and pink paper. Color the letter P and the rest of the picture with crayons. To make ears, cut 2 triangles out of pink paper. Fold one tip of each triangle to create the ears for the pig. So, if you have pink paper at home, you can use it, but any paper will do, and you can color it pink if you don't have pink paper. And then see the tip or the triangle at the top, turn it down, and that looks like the piggy ear if you fold it down. So that's, you'll notice that your pig does not have ears on it. So that's how you can put some ears on your pig. Also, if you have pink paper, or you can color your paper pink if you don't have pink paper, you can cut a little spiral out for the piggy's tail. See the spiral? It looks like a snail. You can cut a little spiral out of your pink paper and put that on for the piggy's tail. Because we don't want him to go around without ears or a tail. And I don't know if you can see this, but on this picture here, you can see how the pig has a curly tail. So that's why we're going to cut the little spiral out for his tail. And for the JKs, you have a P craft page, but yours is not of a pig, it's of porcupines. Porkies, we don't want to get too close to them, do we? What's sticking out of them? They have quills that they can shoot at you for a defense if they're afraid that you're going to hurt them and you get too close. And on the back of your page it says, color the porcupines and the letter P with your crayons. Add quills to the porcupine by gluing on toothpicks. So if you have toothpicks at home, you can give your porky some quills by gluing some toothpicks onto his back. Or spaghetti noodles will work as well. Bits of yarn or even some pieces of paper. Whatever you have there at home to give him some quills so he can protect himself, but don't get too close. So those are your language P craft papers. Not too difficult. You should have some fun with those. Please make sure to do your very best coloring and try and stay inside and do a nice, neat coloring. Moving on now. Oh, before we move on, did you think of any P words today? Yesterday we said pig, porcupine, parrot, polar bear, pineapple. Those were all P words. Have you thought of any other ones? In our classroom we have Caleb Pridham and Mrs. Pedler. What colors start with the letter P? Pink, purple, and what is this right here? Pumpkin? Those are all wonderful P words. If you can think of others, you can use that smart brain of yours and tell mom or dad as many P words or words that start with the P sound as you can think of. Okay, now we're going to move on to our math lesson, and if you remember from yesterday, we're talking about measurement. We can measure how tall something is, how long something is, or how wide it is. So I can hold this basket because it's tall, long, and thick or wide. It's not flat. So how thick it is from here to the back, from the front to the back, That's how wide it is. On this page, we see that the apple is tall, it's standing tall. The hay bale is long from here to here. And the sunflower is this wide from here to here. The pumpkin is this tall. The basket is this wide. And the scarecrow is this tall. Well, today we're going to talk about how long things are, or their lengths. You have 2 worksheets for everybody, JKs and SKs. What is length? We can measure length 2 different ways. By inches, and that's in between each of these lines is 1 inch. So an inch is about this long. You can see that on this ruler. It's a measuring stick, and it measures in inches. But there's another way to measure by centimeters, and centimeters are smaller than inches. But again, in between the black lines is 1 centimeter in between each one, and it's more like this. An inch is like this, centimeters like this. On a ruler or a meter stick, there's 2 different sides. On this side, we're measuring inches. From the end of the ruler to the number 1 is 1 inch. If we turn it around, we're measuring centimeters. From the end of the ruler to the number 1, which is much smaller, is 1 centimeter. It goes all the way to 100 centimeters from the beginning of the meter stick to the end of it. So if I measure this table, let me measure it from one edge to the other, it is 90 centimeters. But if I measure it in inches, it is 37 inches. So 2 different ways to measure how long something is. Inches and centimeters. Inches are bigger than centimeters, but on our ruler, one side is inches, one side is centimeters. So that's why you have 2 measuring sheets, one for centimeters and one for inches. You just need to look at the picture and see how many inches long each picture is. How far do they go on the ruler? Inches, and then the next one, how many centimeters long is each picture? You can go ahead and do that, JKs, and then SKs. When you're finished those 2 sheets, you can flip open your workbook, and you are going to do 100. If you didn't get 113 done yesterday, you can do that today, measuring the pen and the crayon, and then do 114. And circle the longer one in each box. So you've got 4 boxes. You have to look at the 2 pictures in each box and circle whichever one's longer. That's pretty easy. And when you're finished that, you're done your math lesson for today. So now that we have done our memory verse, our calendar, our language, and our math, it's probably time for you to have a bathroom break or snack break or walk around and play. And when you come back, we can get into our cozy chair and listen to our story, Mrs. Toggle's Zipper. I'll see you in a few minutes. Did you have a nice break? Before we sit down and get cozy, let's stretch. Stretch to the sky. Touch your toes. Touch those toes. Let's make some angel wings. Breathe in, breathe out, and get cozy. Mrs. Toggle's zipper. This is written by the author Robin Pulver, and it's illustrated by the artist R.W. Alley. And again, this is a nice winter story. You can see the snow coming down and the children walking to school. One way we can tell it's winter, of course, is that the snow is coming down. Can you see any other ways that are signs of winter? Yes, they're warm winter boots and coats and hats. What about the trees? Yeah, the trees look like they're sleeping because there's no leaves on them. And the sap has all dried up for the winter. And the buds have closed up with a hard shell, waiting for spring to open again. Let's go ahead and see what happened to Mrs. Toggle's zipper. And there's their school. That doesn't look much like our school, does it? And there's the children coming up the steps, and their teacher, Mrs. Toggle, is smiling and waiting for them. When Mrs. Toggle's children arrived at school in the morning, here they all are, putting their things in their cubbies, sitting down in their desks. Can you see some things in their classroom that we have in ours? There's a globe. There's a map like we have. There's some books. Lots of things to help them learn. When Mrs. Toggle's children arrived at school in the morning, they changed in the hall from their boots to their shoes. I'm going to try and get this adjusted so you can see this better. There we go. And when the bell rang, they picked up their boots and their books and their bags and marched along to their room. Like when you're out in the hallway and your teachers say, okay, come on. We need to get our things off and get into the classroom because the door is closing soon. They sat down at their desks. They put their bags, before they sat down at their desks, they put their bags into their cubby holes and hung up their coats. Good morning, Mrs. Toggle, the children said in their best morning voices. Good morning, class, said Mrs. Toggle, in a grumpy voice. Does Mrs. Peddler ever have a grumpy voice? We all feel a little grumpy sometimes, but I wonder why Mrs. Toggle's feeling grumpy. She kind of has a grumpy face on too, doesn't she? The children noticed that Mrs. Toggle was still wearing her coat, the big, puffy, fuchsia-colored one that she got for Christmas. Mrs. Toggle, yelled Joey, you forgot to take off your coat. I didn't forget, said Mrs. Toggle uncomfortably. I can't take it off because the zipper is stuck. I'm afraid it's going to be a long, hot day. Have you ever got your zipper stuck? How'd the zipper get stuck? Nina asked. Mrs. Toggle fanned her face. How does any zipper get stuck? First, a tiny bit of cloth gets caught in it. Then you pull and keep pulling a little too hard, and before you know it, you're trapped in your coat like a hand in a cookie jar. Have you ever got your hand stuck in a cookie jar? The children gathered around Mrs. Toggle's desk to see for themselves. Here she is showing them her coat. Yup, said Joey, that zipper sure is stuck. The others nodded. What's worse, said Mrs. Toggle, the thingamajig is gone. The what, said the children. The thingamajig that you pull the zipper up and down with. Mine is lost. Oh, groaned the children. They all thought happily about their own coats hanging on hooks with their zippers open and the thingamajigs still on. There's their coats hanging on their hooks. Poor Mrs. Toggle. Maybe we can help, said Carolyn. It's worth a try, said Mrs. Toggle. Mrs. Toggle braced her feet on the floor. She leaned forward in her chair and she held out her arms. Some children grabbed one sleeve. Some pulled on the other sleeve. Paul and Nina grabbed fistfuls of the collar. Now, yelled Mrs. Toggle, and everybody pulled. And everybody landed with thuds and bumps in a heap on the floor. So there they are all pulling, and here they are all on the floor. Oh my goodness. But Mrs. Toggle's collar was as far as her nose, but no further than that. Paul wanted to get busy learning the times tables, but Mrs. Toggle, he said, let's go to the nurse's office. Maybe Mrs. Schott can help you. Do you think the nurse can help Mrs. Toggle get her coat off? So Mrs. Toggle and the children trudged down to the office of Mrs. Schott, the school nurse. When Mrs. Schott saw Mrs. Toggle's hot, red face, she reached for the thermometer and popped it into Mrs. Toggle's mouth. Mrs. Toggle shook her head. I don't have a temperature. Don't talk with a thermometer in your mouth, said Mrs. Schott sternly. I'll telephone your mother. I don't live with my mother, mumbled Mrs. Toggle. Mouth closed, ordered Mrs. Schott. Nina spoke up. She's not sick, and she doesn't live with her mother because she's a grown-up. Mrs. Toggle is hot because she can't get her coat off. The zipper is stuck and the thingamajig is lost. Then we must pull it off, said Mrs. Schott. Oh, we tried that, Paul said. This time we'll add a bandage, the nurse added. Do you think that's going to help? Bandages make boo-boos better. But first, Mrs. Toggle, you must take that thermometer out of your mouth. Well, Mrs. Schott stuck a bandage on the zipper where the thingamajig was supposed to be. Then she pulled, and the children pulled, and they all ended up with thuds, bumps, and bangs on the floor in Mrs. Schott's office. Here they all are on the floor again. Mrs. Toggle's collar was as far as her nose, but no further than that. Mrs. Schott shook her head. I must call the principal. He'll know what to do with you. I wonder if the principal can help. The principal, Mr. Stickler, left important matters on his desk to hurry to the nurse's office. Mr. Stickler frowned when he saw Mrs. Toggle. Mrs. Toggle, it's against school rules to wear your coat all day. I'm sorry, said Mrs. Toggle, but I can't take my coat off. The zipper is stuck. Tell him about the thingamajig, said Nina. The what? Mr. Stickler asked. You know, said Paul, the what's it? The doodad, said Carolyn. The whatchamacallit, said Joey. My students are right, said Mrs. Toggle. The thingamajig is missing from my zipper. The principal frowned again. Mrs. Toggle, he said, in my job I have learned that if you want to get out of a tight spot, you must follow the rules. Pay attention, children, he said. Make 2 straight lines. One line, pull on the right arm. The other line, pull on the left. Mrs. Schott, you be responsible for the collar. I shall pull on Mrs. Toggle's feet. Oh my goodness, I wonder if Mrs. Toggle is going to get pulled apart. We've tried that, said Joey. Pulling doesn't work, Nina agreed. Did you make straight lines? Asked Mr. Stickler. That's the rule. Stay in straight lines. Now get ready, get set, and pull. The children and Mrs. Schott pulled in one direction. Mr. Stickler pulled in the other direction. Mrs. Toggle tried to make herself small and wriggly, but with thuds, bumps, bangs, and a kerplop, they all ended up on the floor again. Mrs. Toggle's collar was as far as her nose, but no further than that. Mr. Stickler said, enough of this. We don't want holes in the school floor. Just because of Mrs. Toggle's zipper, I'm calling the custodian. I'm afraid he'll have to cut this coat off. No, yelled the children, and Mrs. Toggle cried, never. Poor Mrs. Toggle. The custodian, Mr. Abel, arrived wearing his big work apron. Tools bulged in every pocket. He looked at Mrs. Toggle in her coat. "Is the building too cold for you?" he asked kindly. "Maybe the thermostat's off. I'll go check." "What?" said Mr. Stickler. "See," said Carolyn, "Mrs. Toggle can't get her coat off because the zipper's stuck." "Yes," said the principal, "and there's a problem with the thingamajig." Mr. Abel listened carefully. He said. "I can see the pull tab is gone." "The what?" said the children and Mrs. Toggle and the nurse and the principal all together. "I said the pull tab is gone." "Don't worry, I've seen worse." Oh, so Mr. Abel, the custodian, is nice and calm with gentle words, and he knows the name for the thingamajig. It's called the pull tab. I wonder if he has a tool in his pocket that can help Mrs. Toggle get her coat off. Mr. Abel pulled a pair of needle-nose pliers out of his huge apron pocket. He used the pliers to loosen the grip of the zipper's metal teeth on the shiny fuchsia-colored lining of Mrs. Toggle's coat. Gently, with his large fingers, Mr. Abel eased the lining away from the teeth. And then he slid the zipper down, and it opened completely. Mr. Abel helped Mrs. Toggle off with her coat. Wow, can you imagine how good she felt to get that coat off? She was so hot. A happy smile spread over Mrs. Toggle's face. So now she has a happy smile instead of a grumpy face. Mrs. Schott and Mr. Stickler and the children all cheered. "You should get a new pull tab for the zipper before you zip it up again," said Mr. Abel. "I surely will," said Mrs. Toggle. "I am forever grateful to you." That means she's very thankful to Mr. Abel. The principal went back to important matters. Mrs. Schott rushed off to check a child for chicken pox. Mrs. Toggle and the children traipsed back to their classroom to tackle the times tables. Mr. Abel pulled a small pad from his huge apron pocket and wrote himself a reminder. Remember to look up thingamajig in the dictionary. Well, I am so glad that Mrs. Toggle got that coat off before she fainted. And Mr. Abel sure was helpful, wasn't he? And he stayed nice and calm when everyone else was feeling frustrated and upset, and he used very helpful hands to get Mrs. Toggle out of her heavy coat. And that was a happy ending. Well, I hope you all have a happy afternoon, and we'll check in together again tomorrow. Bye for now.